Hello everybody, I am Bizarre, and today we're going to be trying to make, of course, the best tourist paradise that we can in City Skylines 2. It has been a while since I played this game, I will be honest with you. I don't know the last time I played it, probably a couple months ago, but since then it has gotten more updates, and apparently it's become very, very, very good. Since the last time I played it, not that it wasn't good before. So I think, with that, we're gonna begin. Name it New Cork. Just because I always liked that. Just because I always liked that Irish city's name. And let's say European. Just because I like the style of their architecture. And we are going to start the game. With this, I've chosen the archipelago map just because it makes sense for a tourist city to be closer to the coast. Many cities with tourism are close to this ocean. That's just due to the fact of many people wanting to have beach holidays and the such. Many people like to go to the waters, therefore you have a lot of people wanting to go and to these types of places and tourist industries developing around it. So in this hypothetical situation, let's say, you know what, actually this is similar possibly to the Greek islands in the Adriatic, so that could be kind of what we're going with here. So without further ado, let's get started with the very basics. We're going to need a water pumping station. Let's put it about... You know what? No, let's plan this out a bit. So, obviously, people are going to need to come in. We haven't unlocked those options yet. Those will come soon. But let's think through this for a second. Someone comes here. They've already built the highway. They've already set up a little bit of places here for us. So why did they... There has to be something here that was already made that people want. Or else you wouldn't build a road here unless it was just a connection, but then you wouldn't build the exit here. So, let's say for right now, this was a small little town, and so let's start with that. Oh, perfect, and we even have waterfront housing. That's perfect, actually. So this was a small little fishing village. Small little fishing town. And they don't even know what they're in for yet. I do want to see what the waterfront housing is yet. I have not seen any of this yet. So this is going to be a bit of a surprise for me. And, we could go with a water tower or a ground pumping station. But I think it's better if we go for a water pumping station. And it seems like the boats are going to be coming this way, so we do need to plan for that. So these houses will most likely, sadly, have to go bye-bye. And then that means we don't want this water pumping station there. We want it a bit over here. And I think for the most part, we might even try to send our sewage out of the town. Just so that we don't have to treat it there, just so that we don't have to put it into the water, but that's okay. Let's connect you to you. What's nice is you don't have to worry about these pipes underground doing anything because they're there for the they're there for the aesthetics. I was about to say they're there for the opposite of aesthetics because you're not going to see them. So I don't have to worry about them as much. And I usually like to go with green energy just because I don't want to deal with the pollution, and I think today is no different, especially if this is going to be a tourist haven. I think we're going to stick with that unless there is outside electricity, which there is. I think we might go with that instead then. So let's get a transformer station. Again, the tourist stuff's going to be over here. We're going to need a bit of industrial. Let's put the industrial section on this side of the island in that case. So, transformer station there. Set up the power lines. Kind of following this roadway here. We can fix that in the future. Not many people know this, but this is how a lot of cities are made. They just do things that work for the day, and then say, yeah, we'll fix it in the future. Not always true. If you have long-range planning, of course, that can be fixed. But for right now, we're going with a simple start approach. So, this, and let's actually, I think there is a radio station. Pins, audio, enable radio. There we go. And let's go with the vibe. A little bit of SimCity-like music. A bit of The Sims, which is nice. And let's also look at the elevation. Oh, they still haven't made the elevation map. That makes me a bit sad, but one day they'll do it. Because a lot of this stuff, like roadways and stuff like that, would go with the contours of the road. But for right now, we're okay. So let's move this over here. Connect it with our more industrial area to the left. There we go. Housing there. Commercial is most likely going to be along this strip as well, because we do want to make it tourist. But again, we're starting out right now, so that means it is going to be more of a small town that is eventually going to become a tourist haven. Because most cities don't start out going directly into tourism. It happens sometimes, but usually it's a small town and then people go, oh, I like these people. I like this. I like it here. It's kind of like TikTok in a way, where you see a lot of people going to Japan and things like that, and then they make videos, they make posts, and then suddenly, oh my God, you need to visit this small town in so and so, Europe, Japan, wherever, and then it goes popular, popular, popular. More tourists come through, more commercial establishments are made just because, hey, we can make money off this now. And so that's usually what happens. So, let us continue with this. Okay. Now, we have the power, we have the water. We now need the sewage, which is a bit of a sad thing to say, because we're going to have to get away with it somehow. For now, that is going to be through the use of a sewage outlet pipe. Luckily, our water intake is all the way over here, so it's not going to be messed with for the time being. In future, we're going to be able to use some of these settings just to lower the amount of pollution that goes out into the water. Hopefully it doesn't connect to it, connect to our water inlet. We'll find out, of course, if it does do that. But for now, we're not going to worry about it because I have no other options. If I had other options, I'd use them. And I think with that, power's going to have to be hooked up here. But it should already be through the roadway, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, make sure. And then you, though, are going to need to be connected. And do it that way. just through a normal straight line like everybody else. Every town and city needs to start somewhere. Heck, old New York was once old Amsterdam. No, it was old New Amsterdam. Yeah, even old New York was once New Amsterdam. That is the song by They Might Be Giants. There we go. And so let's finally hit the play button. Put some commercial in the middle here just so that we have it and starting up. We're probably going to need more housing here. So let's do so. A lot of waterfront properties over here just because it's a small town. Looks like they need electricity and sewage. It seems like the pipes aren't hooked up, and they aren't. So just do that. That should hook us up. There we go. And now they just need the electricity because it can't go over this road. So move it out here, set it across the highway here, have it hooked up there. Bada bing, bada boom, you are connected. And it looks like, actually, sewage outlet pipes don't need electricity anymore. They used to in City Skylines 1, which is why I still have it hooked up in my memory. Hey, you need to you need to connect that in my head. But luckily, you don't anymore, so that's a fun thing to note. Let's just clean that up. Now they're going to be connected up to the electricity. And let's see it grow a bit. Used to be a bit faster in the day, oh well. Let's go on to our industrial zone. We're not going to have this all the time, just because I want to, while it is good for a city to have its own, let's put it this way. If we're going to make a tourist paradise, yeah, we could do it, because we also want to make it good for our residents. You know what, let's do it. Let's have a bit of industrial here. Usually I wouldn't do that because there's fresh groundwater right here, which will usually be protected, at least in the United States and some states. Groundwater like that is protected because, well, you want to keep public groundwater supplied because people use wells, they pump the water out of the ground, and if that is hurt in any way by industry or pollution, you might have a problem on your hands with people saying, I need to leave. I have no clean water. Let's see here. The beach houses are being built. Small residential beachfront properties. A little bit of a higher income community is what we're looking at right now. So this would be more of a... This is more... Okay. What we're seeing is it's actually more of a tourist town already. Let's say in the past this was a fishing village. Let's say this was a little thing with people living here. And then suddenly... yeah, let's do it. COVID-19 hit. People said, I need to get out of the city. And a lot of people started moving here. And this is kind of the aftermath of this. The people are moved here. They want to live here. And this is their story. So let's continue building this small town. Regular non-waterfront houses here. More industry is wanted, let's say back in the day. This would probably be a fishing industry, if anything. You know what? Actually, if we're going for more of a European style, it would be mostly farming. So, actually, luckily, they recently made it so you can place the specialized industries right in the beginning. So let's do just that. No, I do not want to get rid of our only source of power. That would be a bit of a disaster if I did that. Go up here, move around here, connect it up with this. Connect this, go here, and connect to about there. Oop, overlapping an item. Ah, you're overlapping that power line. So let's do you like that then. And now we'll even get rid of these chunks of road. D-zone this because, you know what, we actually don't need that type of industry there. Get rid of that. And now we are in for it. Make this a bit of farmland here. Just because I could see this being a more agricultural areas in this small town for right now. Going around here. You know, yes, while COVID happened, these rich people did move in over here. But it still has a bit of that rural taste that many people like. So we're going to keep to that. These are the remnants of it. It still is new. It's still a lot of the people who worked there before working there. And now like this, I can edit it this way so it's easier. Right there, put one node there. One node there. Oops. If they ever make it so that you could just put these fences around these streets, that would be very nice and very pleasant. Unless there's a button I don't know about that does that. If you know any button that does that, please tell me. Put this here, put this here, put it in the most fertile areas. And then we'll do it a bit more square off-ish. Like this. You know, a lot of towns in cities in the past, especially of English origin, would have had what's called the commons, the common greens and the such. And that's where people would come and put their, have their sheep, have their horses, have whatever have you graze on these common areas. That's why they're called the commons, because they were made in common for all the people in the town, all the people in the city to come and use it. Eventually, that was gotten rid of with the Enclosure Acts, I believe they were called, which essentially said, hey, we're no longer really going to have these common areas. All of that has to be fenced off now, and it has to kind of be decided as you doing it. So that's kind of where it went after a while. There we go, we have this. I do like the ads though. But I'll keep them on. I do like them.
We came here with the grandkids and we'll
because they do make a bit of good background story too to this, which is nice. Have that, do that. And the town is growing. There's 59. We're on a bit of a hill here, which does kind of add to this. Everybody's going to get beachfront property. You know what? Maybe that's even a reason why people wanted to move here. Because they knew in past that this town was going to grow eventually. And if they grew up, there would still be beachfront property for them. So that's quite the possibility that that is currently what's happening. Oop, there we go. We got our 3 points. They need a lot more workers. So we're going to give it to them right away. Some EU medium housing a little bit farther away from the water because the waterfront is going to, of course. Oops, sorry, my cat's with me right now.
How you doing?
Boop. There you go. Because the closer to the waterfront you are, the higher the property values, and so in this situation, the richer people have bought the higher priced properties, and now you're seeing a bit into the farther areas inland, a little bit more, and in the less desirable areas, this more closely made housing for like the what's usually called workforce housing. Of course, we're going to need medical care. So let's do a small clinic. Sometimes these clinics, especially in areas of privatized healthcare, would be a bit more of a commercial establishment, where it's like you have a doctor here and a doctor there, and they all have their own practice and things like that. But in this situation, the town has decided to set up a little thing, seeing their incoming growth and wanting to take advantage of it as it is right now. Landfill, I don't think we want to worry about landfill right now because we're not really going to have enough space for it. So we're going to be taking that service from other cities is what we're going to do there. So, where we go from here is I could get a bit more land over here in the industrial area. Thank you so much, Savage. I hope you're enjoying it. I think we're going to try to get a bit more land. Maybe across, start setting up a new branch over here. But I think we want to keep it here. Small town, close proximity here. We're going to actually, what I've found to make the best cities is you do something like this, where we make a little bit of a district when we can, so I need to be level 4 for that, and actually protect areas like this, areas of heritage and things like that. Again, used to be a farming town. Here you'll see like remnants of old barns and things like that. That actually, this is kind of good storytelling too, just due to the fact, especially in places like New England. I can speak mostly for New England because I am a New Englander from the United States. So, what happened here is when farming got industrialized, a lot of people moved out. These farmlands were then essentially abandoned. Because of industrialized agriculture, you don't need many people there anymore. Small town, mom and pop farms go out of business or just move somewhere else for better opportunities. What once was clear cut for farming now is barren land, and so sometimes trees will come in. A lot of times, especially in the Northeast, trees came in and covered the land, and that's why you actually have a lot of forest, some of the forested land, at least in New England. Like Connecticut, I know, was essentially clear cut back in the day. Clear cut meaning essentially no trees whatsoever. This was because of the charcoal industry during the early colonial period, and then that would go into the potash of burning down all of the trees as well. So you need that for heating, you need it for fertilizer. All the trees are taken down eventually, and then they only started to come back in the 1930s, 1940s or so because of the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression, as well as other programs to save them, as well as a lot of the farmland leaving and making these pristine areas available. And that is what we call in the business a lore dump, and I hope that it was somewhat informative. So let's build this over here, connect it up actually over here. Now we have these areas. And build more medium density housing here. Again, though, people are going to need those jobs. And right now, sadly, we can't do the tourist industry quite yet. There used to be tourism, at least. Up here it is. We're not going to be able to do the tourism quite yet, but we'll get there. I think we might even just go a bit faster. So, I think we're going to keep all of this empty just because a lot of people don't want to live near the highways. But let's say because of land constraints and because of the typography of the area. Good to hear, Savage. So what we're going to do is this. It turns out my delay is actually a lot longer than I thought it was, which is interesting to find out. So, what we're going to do is we're going to put this all here, a bit closer to the highway. These are going to be a bit lower income, just because they're not as desirable. And we still have commercial. We need the industrial. So, you know what? Let's say even that back then, this town did have an industrial heritage as well. Most of these industrial heritage towns, of course, would be closer to the coast. That is because of harbor towns and such, where the easiest way to transport goods back in the day was by water. And in many ways, it still is today. It is very cost efficient because boats can carry a lot more goods and a lot more weight for a lot less money, for a lot less energy than rail, cars, trucks, whatever have you. So, especially back in the day when you didn't really have railways, these areas would be made industrial ports where you could ship goods in and out fast. That's how you have towns and cities popping up, such as, of course, New Orleans, and one you may be more familiar with if you don't know New Orleans, which would be a bit surprising, New York City. Because New York City wasn't really the capital, the economic capital of the United States till much, much later. That came with the creation of the Erie Canal and other such projects where, when those were built, the industry could move faster and more products could be moved farther inland to the Great Lakes and more, and all the cities around there, and so New York could provide its goods where it was needed. Let's see here. We're going to build... Let me see if there's actually a way I can turn on the sunlight, because I've never tried that, actually. I don't want day and night vision. Turn that off. Let's go! Listen, it's sometimes fun. It's sometimes fun to have. And also, I'm going to leave little houses like this, just because I like them. And fun fact about this game, you can move them. So, let's say this was actually, as it is an old mill, right next to the farms. This is usually where they would be. And again, this could possibly have been an old area of farmland that now is no longer in use. Possibly because the industry went somewhere else, possibly because, hey, people just don't want to do it anymore. If you don't have the family there to help you anymore, well, sadly, some of those heritages go away. So put this there, connect that there. And we'll even buy... Oh, there we go. Level 2. Let's actually... We could start getting our own electricity. But I think we're not going to do that right now. Hospitals, do we need anything like that yet? No. Colleges, do we need anything like that yet? No. We're going to need things like this eventually. We're going to especially need these two eventually when we get more into tourism. just because of the fact, hey, people are going to want to come for parks. Heck, I once did a whole tourist trip. This is going to show a bit how boring I am. I once did a whole tourist travel myself I think it was a whole week, where I went to some of the parks that made the United States. You're right, we do have the sewage treatment. Yeah, we do need the sewage treatment, and you're right, we are getting a bit closer to that sewage outlet pipe there. So we are going to have to do that. But I think actually we're going to keep this the industrial area for now. Again, just basing it off of, hey, back in the day, they would have had a harbor or something here. You know what, this kind of looks like a nice area. A harbor would be. And that is where a lot of the industry would come and go for their goods and produce to be made. So let's keep that in the lore. Move this up here. Roundabouts go there. And now you're going to see a bit of my dirty secret. I am a grid person. That's how you turn it on. I said we'd keep it, but... as Darth Vader once said, I lied. So, a lot of these roadways back then would have been horse and buggy. So they're not going to be the grid-like structure you see. They'd be kind of meandering like this. Up and around wherever really a horse could go. They especially wouldn't be paved. Don't exactly know when paving truly started with the roadway systems, but it wouldn't have started back in the colonial era. Unless it did. If you have any facts about that, let me know. Listen, while I love grids, we're going to have to go back with the bit of the horse and buggy here just to go with it. And plus, at the end of the day, a lot of this looks better. Well, it's not going to be as efficient, and it may not look as good to you, but for lore reasons, it's going to work. So we have this. So let's put the industrial areas here. Here, here, here. Let's make it all industrial. I used to only do grids in City Skylines, and then one day I'm like, let me see if I can do a bit better. Well, maybe not a bit better, but let me see if I can do something different. I wanted to change, and again, we're going to keep all this land here as almost a preserve. Keep that there as a preserve too, so the only way that our city could expand would be up in this area here, which we're going to take. Maybe make this a bit of a roundabout. Pause that. Actually, you're right. Let's get a water treatment plant for the future. And let's also get a little bit of roundabouts. No, the thing is, the grid is... I'll defend the grid a bit. The grid is very good. It's efficient. It does what it's needed to do. It can get high density. Yeah, like this. Kind of close to the grid. But the reason you want a grid sometimes is because you can get higher density. You can pack things. You can pack houses into nicer area, and you can get more roadway connections. Like if I put a roadway here and a roadway here, let's say you lived in 126 Evergreen Street. If you live here in a bit of a more block-like system, you would be able to take a road from, let's say, about here, go up here, and come here, instead of having to go all the way around it. So it does have its benefits. Hey, you have to defend something that's a good idea. Am I saying you should use it all the time for everything? No. But sometimes it is a good idea to have. So, we have this here. Let's put in the roundabout system here. Make that even a very large roundabout with trees. That we don't have to replace it in future. Put this here. There's a beautiful grid system actually in Savannah, Georgia. Now, Savannah, Georgia was made with the Savannah Plan. The Savannah Plan being a old, I want to say it was colonial. An old colonial plan where the guy's like, hey, I want to build a town and a city. I want to build a town and a city that has many parks and many amenities for people. And so that's what he did. That's why when you're in Savannah, you are about, I want to say you're almost always within 2 blocks. 2 blocks of a park. A lot of those parks also had access to fresh water, which of course you needed back in the day because, well, the reason it had access to fresh water is because they had the wells. And that was the only way to really get fresh water back in the day. Oh, completely. Walkable pavements could alleviate that too. The question is, would your utilities and would your emergency systems be able to take those walkable paths? If yes, you can do it. If no, you might have a bit of a problem because now your fire department, your hospitals, your ambulances, not the hospitals. Well, hospitals go to ambulances. No. Ambulances go to hospitals. There we go. Stop while you're ahead. Put some more higher density here in this area. Maybe say this is maybe not so much workforce housing, but a developer came in, said, hey, I like this idea. I want this to be how it is. Uh-oh. What's happened with our water? We need more. Nothing, we're just disconnected. That is our problem. All right. So let's connect this up to this. There we go. Hey! We're already getting levels up and things like that. There is a large demand for low-density residential, but what I have heard from the developers of this game is you shouldn't trust these numbers anymore. Apparently, these numbers no longer mean exactly what you think they mean. Where they used to be just residential, commercial, industrial/office. Nowadays, it's split up into all of these options, and while people may demand low density right now, if you just follow that, you'll make suburban sprawl with a lot of low density all around the place and a lot of services trying to cover all those places, and your city's going to go bankrupt eventually. Or you can put down the medium density and you'll wait for people to move in. Like what is happening right now. So let's even add up another connection away from that roundabout. From here to here to here. Just so that when people are coming in and out, they can also just use a second route so that they don't have to go through the roundabout and through all of this traffic. Little bypass, if you will. I don't know. It wasn't part of Economy 2.0. It was just there from the beginning. They just never really said it until... I don't want to say it was recently. It might have been maybe last year or so. Here we go. Okay, waiting for a hearse. So we are going to need some sort of cemetery. I feel like the cemeteries in this game are a bit too big. I feel like you should start off with a smaller cemetery. Because, yes, while I'll, you know what? Yeah, I'll just say it. I'll say the history of cemeteries too. So, this is very inspirational of an English kind of garden style, where you see the trees and you see the lovely areas and things like that. These didn't happen until the later 1800s, when cities were becoming a bit too full and people wanted to return to the English countryside and wanted to have that little bit of nature. Because remember, at this point in the time period, cities were net negative on life. Meaning, the only way they got new citizens wasn't from them being born, but from them leaving the countryside in order to get into the cities for job opportunities there. So that's how that happened. But eventually, some people said, hey, I want to make like little nice parks and stuff like that, so that when you're walking through the graveyards, it feels nice, and this is a nice final resting place. And so you have little areas like this. In fact, the first landscape planning in the United States was a cemetery. It was, shoot, I know it is in Massachusetts. I know it's in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I want to say it's Auburn Hill. I'm going to have to be fact-checked on that. I want to say it's Auburn Hill, though. Or something of the similar name. So, what we're going to do is we're going to be moving this a bit farther out of the city. So, instead of in the industrial area, move it a little here. Put this here. This here. And put this, relocate you bitter. There. Alright, let's actually see how our economy's doing, though. We're almost breaking even, which is nice. I do like to see that. Wait, it can double down as a park as well with upgrades. Oh my god, you're right. And that kind of shows that inspiration too, where, you know, a lot of people think cemeteries are scary, but a lot of them are beautiful. Trust me, after we went to the... I took my friends to go see a cemetery, and it was the Massachusetts one. And after we went there and we saw the beauty of it, we all said, I think I'm okay with dying if I'm buried here. Just because of how gorgeous it is. It had little... Oh my god, it was gorgeous. It had little pond features. It had everything. It had little ponds there. It had the trees from all over. It had fountains. It had etc, etc. Ooh, I do like how they have a small element. Cool. So, these would probably go into more of the... Actually, what am I doing? This type wouldn't be here. Because again, this is more of the wealthy urban area. This type of housing would have probably been set up because these people are petitioning it. Hey, I don't want these higher density things ruining my property values. Can we put them near the industrial area? Oh, I think that's actually what we're gonna do. I'm gonna kind of follow the role right now of a politician, because in a lot of areas, you kind of are a politician in a way. You're working with the public. And when you try to get zoning approval, Sometimes it doesn't always work out. So let's move these around here where the old agriculture was. So there's a bit of space where the agriculture is. The agriculture is going away. And so what happens? This more, again, workforce housing comes in. And you start to see things like this. And for good measure, let's put in a roadway here. No, it is probably the fear with movies and things like that. Pop culture usually does change attitudes towards planning and things like that. There we go. We're now at a large city. And we're also now making money. We're at a 2,000, almost at 2,000 population. So, again, this shouldn't have been here. It should have been over here, logically, just due to the fact of how the politics and planning systems are played. So, not to say this happens everywhere. I always should alleviate that. Not to say it happens everywhere. But in some places it does happen. So, let's say this is actually a more well-to-do area where what happened was all of this land was bought up. So now a developer comes in, hey, I can make money off these people if I build lower density housing over here, close to this area of non-development. We're going to do that. And that's also going to lower demand for single family. Yes, I understand. I am going. I understand this is starting to become a bit of suburban sprawl over here, but, you know, this is the way it works in reality. And put a bit of commercial here. And a bit over here. And it looks like there is industrial demand. I think there's a way to see unemployment too. So we can see actually how much we're making. We're actually exporting some agriculture products right now. Where our money's going there. Loans, budget. Taxation. Alright, that's good to see. What about graphs? Here we go. Let's see our unemployment. Shocking, really. No, you're completely right with that. You're completely right with that. Does happen in some places where I've seen it in England, where they do have those little pathways and alleyways, especially. You know, actually it happens throughout Europe. Alleyways are a big thing, where people go there and they're used as kind of connection places from one place for another. I actually visited Amsterdam once. I was lucky to do that. And you're not really walking on roads as much. They're mostly alleys and small little road areas. Well, that you're not really going to take a car down much. And those alleys were used for like trash and sewage and things like that back in the older periods. And New York, funnily enough, doesn't have them. That's one of the reasons with their trash problem in the past, because they didn't have the alleyways there. They weren't able to put dumpsters in those areas to collect the trash. Now you're seeing them finally starting to fix that problem. They're no longer leaving the trash on the side of the road for the garbage men to pick up in plastic bags and such that rats can get to. They're now kind of going more for a, again, European style of development, where you start to see in-ground trash cans that can be pulled up by the garbage trucks and things like that aren't like a dumpster or a trash can that's an eyesore, really, where all of your trash goes underground, is taken out eventually. And it's nice because guess what? You no longer have to worry about the trash in your area. Okay, so we have the nice development here. Industries coming up around here. Nice. Now let us continue. We are going to need a fire station. Firehouses, again, back in the past. I mostly know this from the UK. So back in the past, you would have a plaque on your house saying, I have paid for the fire service, so you can save me. So the firefighters would come and be like, oh, you have the plaque, we're gonna put out the fire. This is back in the day, back in the day, privatized, not everything. And then they would take out the fire. But if you didn't have that plaque, well, sucks to suck. We're putting the fire station there because that is where the industrial area is, and so it can get rid of fires for the industrial area. And let's also put a small police station. Well, we don't really have crime. Average crime probability. Current number of criminals, 2. I don't know how they get that data, but that's okay, imagine living in your town, and then there's just a graphic that says, hey, current number of criminals in our town, 2, and growing. I would be like, okay, let's... It would be funny, though. It would definitely be funny. Industrial zones here around the port area. I also heard they're coming out with an update for harbors and piers and coastlines and all of that, so that's going to be a nice thing to have in the future. But for now, we play with what we have. Now, another thing you can do is... we can see residential suitability. For some reason it's saying this is good. Oh, it's going to bite me eventually. I always know that fully well when I'm playing this. That's why eventually I come in and I upgrade these roads where they're needed. Like a good example for roadway hierarchy is this. Where is your main street? Where is the most amount of traffic going on to? Where are they coming from? Where are they going? Etc., etc. So for this example, it seems a lot of trucks are actually coming around this way. So a lot of trucks are coming around this way, so usually you would upgrade this. But for this example, I'm going to actually upgrade this to make it faster to go down here. And in doing this roadway hierarchy, of course, we do have to worry about... what is it called? Interconnections and signal lights. With your road hierarchy, as you probably know, you want a little less connection so there's not as many of these node points on your main road, because your main road is meant... instead of industries being on it, is meant to get to one place to another. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's essentially the very basics. After all, then you have your definitions of roadways and things like that. Like you have your arterials, you have your urban connectors, you have your blah 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 blahs, you have your everything. And let's also connect you with you. And each of those classifications has a different thing which they do. And let's actually make this an industrial roundabout. So an industrial roundabout would be... it would have a lot of concrete around it. Maybe some bushes and things like that. Let's move you... Move you here. Up, I can't because you have this here. What are you? I want to get rid of you. I also want to get rid of you. Perfect. I should be able to move this now. You to there. And bada bing, bada boom. Nice, nice, nice. Nice. More residential is needed, so we're gonna go, because now it's become more of an industrial town with this. We're gonna put it in. And with the services, we do have an elementary school. So you're right, we do need a high school though, because people need to be educated. So, where will we... Well, actually, did I put the small... I didn't even put the small elementary school down yet. Oh. My cat's bumped. Buddy. Let's put a small elementary school, high school over here. And then eventually put a urban one over here. Would be nice. Yep, and we already have a accident here, just because of how poorly that was. So, put that there. Up. Oh, traffic jam. Oh, that's cool. I like how they have those indicators there now. It's a bit of a weird intersection coming in this way, because people are really trying to get to this side of the road mostly. Like, why aren't you... Where are you going? Where are you going? You're going there, so everyone wants to take a left onto that roadway. So... let's do this. I need to buy the roadways. Oh, advanced road services, highways, so I can do ramps. Nice. And let's move this ramp. They used to have highway ramps. Oh yeah, and they're perfect. There are the pedestrian streets and the alleys. Let's actually put an alley exit example there. Just because I want to see what it does. And now, this is going to be a bit difficult. I want you to come out here and connect here. So we're going to reverse engineer this. you there. Now have you turn. Now have you turn. You go straight under that. Would it be the best idea? Yeah. Have it connect like this. I'm trying to think of how I get this to connect to it in a logical way. Because in many ways, this should be the out, that should be... No. Because you want the in here, because people are trying to go mostly take the left into there. So we want the in, the out. I'm confusing myself. Oh, there's the topography. That's nice to know. There used to be like one button you would click to flip the way it went. Sadly, I can't find it right now. I'm gonna do a horrible intersection, and I apologize so much. Oh goodness, we've made it something abhorrent. I've made something abhorrent, is the truth of the matter. But sadly, a lot of highways do look like this in some aspects, so that's just how it's gonna have to be for now. I know there's a way to flip it. I'm gonna have to do what no streamer wants to do. Google. How to flip roadway direction. Hey, there we go. That was the first question that came up. How to flip roadway directions in City Skylines 2, please. Oh, good. There's a YouTube video. You know what? We'll do that. We'll leave the like. We'll leave the comment. I see you have the highway going that direction. You have to click and hold now? Oh my... You have to click, hold, and move it in the direction you need to... Why? You used to just right-click, and then it would change the direction. Okay. I guess that's just how it is now. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But there we go. That should alleviate some of the highway connection issues there. And are there any issues over here? No. A lot of people actually want to come this way for it. So what we could do is... get a new intersection. For the future. Alright, I remember how to do this. We'll do what I learned from the other City Skylines YouTubers, and that's look at your traffic, see where it's ending up, see where the problem is, and just going like this. We'll even put a tree there to make it look nice. You're telling me I'm wrong, but this will... It always works. Because somehow City Skylines has programmed it where roundabouts are just so fantastic, and I won't deny they are nice. So we have this, we have that, we have the connection coming up here. Many people coming in doing all of that stuff. Let's actually go into our graphics settings. Nope, we're good. I'm gonna actually have to go back after that because I remember the developers even said, hey, in your settings do this, and that should fix some of the shutter problems. So I'm gonna have to do that in a bit. After stream, of course. Okay, so we have the more urban areas here. Let's do the alleyway type deal. I want to see if alleys will actually allow buildings to be built on them. And they do. Okay. That's very nice to know. You know what? You're right. Shadows too low. Shadows too low. I hate how that worked. I mean, I like how it worked, but it's one of those things where if it's a simple fix, you go, oh, really? And there's 4, which means we can finally start getting parks. So, now that the population has increased a bit, you know, some people live here. They'll probably petition the town for a small park or something like that. Let's say... Usually it's a dog park. Let's be honest, in small towns, like, usually it's a dog park. They're nice. They're nice, those. Let's put that there, raise up property values over here, and also start generating this kind of tourist idea in people's minds. And we'll get a large hedge park over here because now these guys are starting to develop some power because it's no longer about all the money. It's now also about your population factor, and these guys have a lot more power because of just how many people are there. So you're also going to see a turn in this area, possibly from industrial towards residential and towards a mix in future. So they petitioned the town, and they got their hedge park, and now they can have little concert venues and things like that. Nice. Also, yeah, let's save this, actually. Just so that we don't lose it. And they have housing here. Housing can be built on these areas as well. And let's look at some of our graphs and see what we need. So, unemployment.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Fire
Where?
and Rescue Service reports that fires are currently spreading in the nearby forest. The building clouds of smoke pose a serious health risk.
I think we have a bigger issue
At this time, all
than the
citizens
forest fire.
are
I'm gonna be
immediately moved to a
honest.
safe
I'm
distance
gonna be.
until the situation is under control.
I listen. I get the forest fire is an issue. I get that, but there's a tornado. Okay. I guess the happy music starts playing. You've. God said no. Alright. Back to this. We're now getting a lot of more industries. We now have offices too, which is nice. We have the parks, we have the offices. So, what's usually going to happen with the offices, especially earlier in the decades, the offices are going to be located right next to the industrial because that's where you need your clerks and stuff like that. Someone needs to tally up how many goods are being made in your factory. Someone needs to tally up how much money you've made. Someone needs to tally up all of this information. And that's where the offices come in. These guys say, hey, you've made this much money. Hey, you've done this, done this. Eventually, they turns into, especially with computerization and things like that, papers and forms and all of that. So we'll follow that tradition and put the job sectors over here, and it looks like they're in dire need of housing. So that's going to bring us into our next expansion. We could do two ways. There's two options. Number one, we continue outwards into the Greenlands, which is going to happen anyway. So if it's going to happen anywhere, we're going to follow that. So off of this major road, we're going to actually put another roadway here. Lower the amount of connections. Because just what I'm thinking is, there's two ways we could have gone about it. Number one was we go inward with our expansion, meaning higher densities, etc., etc. But that wouldn't exactly happen right now, because, especially for developers, it's cheaper to just build out into this Greenland. It's cheaper to build in areas like this, in areas of farmland, because the land's already cleared. You don't have to clear that land. And then it's even better. And so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna say that's what happened. And we're also gonna put this condominium up here. A little bit of a richer folks area, you know, back in the past. Again, nice little park area. Even put a little bit of a temple there for worship. And rich folks want to live close by, so that's why we'll have those more luxury condos around here. So next, I'm gonna build a roadway off of here, connecting to there. And yep, this is where we're gonna get a bit into the grid, because grid is coming for us all. You there. Put the connecting point there. And have another connecting point here for connection. And everything else, if we need to expand it, can be used for alleyways and such to make higher density. So let us put our low rent housing, again, likely down I'm not saying I agree with that decision, just in realism, it's kind of where they would be. Put those there, and then put in the EU medium residential. You know, with the way some of these shutter FPSs work, you'd think I'd playing this on a laptop. You'd be right. It is a good laptop. I paid good money for this laptop, and I'm gonna use it as much as I can. Until it dies. And then I'll upgrade to a desktop, I promise. I'll do it then. I'll do it then. So the housing is going to be expanded here. A lot of people want low-density residential. So that area is probably going to be here. We're going to have a bit of suburban sprawl. For right now, at least. It's going to start out as this because it's in the hinterlands. It's out of this main municipality of the city. So that's where it's going to be. Trails behind the cars on the highways. Oh yeah, those. It's also because, you know, we're sponsored by Michael Bay today. And so we need a bit more of that effect. A lot of people coming over here. Why are you stopping them? Oh, because what they really want is they want a bit of space to make their decisions. So that's exactly what we're going to give them. Instead of being the entrance there, we're going to move a lot of this around. We're still going to have the main road down this way. But we're now going to move the entrance around here. No, exactly. Emerging lane would be great, which is kind of what we're giving by doing this, expanding it out to here. Go, and then in that case, we're actually going to get rid of this little area here. Listen. The painting doesn't look good now. We have to remember this is art. All cities are art. And I was about to say no masterpiece is ever really complete. And in a way, that is true. You never really hear an artist say, well, no, you do hear artists say it's done. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? I'm going crazy. Now you need to connect there. Perfect. The electricity needs to be connected as well, because you guys aren't getting any electricity right now. There we go. Now it's kind of working as a merging lane. But it's not doing a good job. So let's do then... I'm gonna need to buy the larger roads. But those cost 2, and we can't do it. Right now, we're okay. Because eventually this roadway will clear up just because we added this whole new area, so a lot of people are moving in, etc., etc., etc. And also because the AI is a bit dumb. But I say this knowing I am a person as well. So are drivers, and so are people. So we'll let it do its thing. Now over in this area. What do you have? What's your problem? High rent. Are having trouble paying rent. A higher zone density or a different zoning might be needed. That's too real. We have achieved too much realism now. We have achieved too much realism now, sadly. Oh my goodness. You have to... How much is the upkeep on these? Once we get really high up there, it's going to be that much? Okay, that's good. Good to know for future. And eventually we're going to have to add transportation. Here.
This is an emergency broadcast to all citizens.
The Fire and Rescue Service reports that
well.
fires are currently spreading in the nearby forest. The billowing clouds of smoke pose a serious health risk to anyone nearby. At this time, all citizens in the affected area are instructed to
Canada.
immediately move to a safe distance until the situation
Was
is
horrible
under
what
control.
happened there. More jobs are needed. So again, offices, spaces are going to be made around here. We're not actually going to put these on the main road because we do want people to be kind of driving more there. To be moved out closer around here. And taking a step back and looking at what we have, this area needs quite a bit of fixing up. And I think I'm going to do just that right. So, welcome to the time of industrial renewal, baby. This is the time when a lot of roadways and highways were made and a lot of, sadly, lower income communities were gotten rid of. But in this example, let's do let's do something good, actually. Not get rid of lower income neighborhoods and things like that. Back this. That's being met now. This can get straightened up a bit. Well, listen. These they're not taxis. What? No, they are taxis. What the? Well, you see, the tourist motivations have worked. We have fixed our problems. Look at this. Even the pickups are taxis now. It's craziness. I remember hearing that be a problem when this game first came out, where apparently taxis would load at the very at the very, like, ends of your cities and stuff like that and cause so much lag. I wonder if they finally made it, and this is what's happening. They're finally coming to our city. This is what we want. I am sorry for the high-density residential just being removed. If the papers ask, nothing happened. Perfect. Make that look nice there. this is fine. We're going to be able to connect that with alleyways and other small roadways. Oh, let's put just that. Let's get our alleys. Make one come out of here, connect to there. Even make that a four-way there. Eight here. And connect up. Perfect. Now let's put in residential, again, medium density. And I think what we're even gonna do, this circumstance, because we don't have mixed yet, is make this a small little shopping area in between the houses. Because you do see that from time to time on alleyways, especially, where there will be corner shops and things like that. Actually, they're mostly on main roads, now that I think about it. As always with cities, hi, and welcome to City Skylines with Bazaar. It depends, is the answer to almost everything. Why do some cities have this and have that? Well, it could be this reason, but it could be any other reason. And that's the truth of the matter. There we go, we now have that. More businesses moving in here, because I want to keep the... What we're doing right now is, I should probably explain. What we're doing right now is called Euclidean zoning, where I am saying, hey, you can build commercial, residential, etc. in this area only, and if you want to build, and only at this certain parameters. That's called Euclidean zoning. And it actually, the reason it's called that is, I want to say this is the reason. I might just be talking. That is true. I could use different lot sizes with spaces and walkways in between because it is true tourists do love to walk. Especially in a walkable city. That's one of the funnest things. In the United States, we got rid of our walkable cities so that now all of our tourists leave to go to walkable cities. But I believe it was called Euclidean zoning because of where the Supreme Court case that allowed it happened, and that was in Euclid, Ohio. Because they're like, hey, we don't want you to be able to build this industrial area right next to this residential area. Can you not do that? And they're like, oh, well, we want to do it. We're going to go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's like, actually, you have the right to do that. And so zoning came to the United States. Euclid versus Ohio. No, it wasn't Euclid versus Ohio. What was it called? Google. Save me. I want to be smart. I want to be smart. Help me. Euclid versus... Was it? Yes, this is what it... Was it? 1926. Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty Company. 1926 United States Supreme Court case that permitted city zoning. Because essentially what happened was they're like this, hey, back in the day, we used to be able to build whatever we want here. We're going to go into Supreme Court cases here. I'm going to ramble. I'm a rambler, and that's how it's going to work. Because I just love urban planning, and I studied this. So, I'll just say it. Right now, let's say we were without zoning. Let's say zoning didn't exist. You could build whatever you wanted anywhere. I couldn't tell you no. Maybe there were a couple laws that said you couldn't build this next to this, Like, you couldn't build a pub within this many meters of a blank, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. Mostly, you have free reign to build what you want on your lot. So, what happened is, one day, Euclid says, hey, we want to be conscious about it. We want to keep this industrial that has the pollution and everything away from our residential. Perfect. You want that. You want that, especially in the cities at the time. Because again, net negative, life wasn't good there. Great book, if you really want to learn about it, is... What's it called? It's not The Jungle, because The Jungle was about the meatpacking industry, another horrible thing that happened. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm gonna think about it. Hold up. Let me. It was by a journalist. He was a photographer. He photographed all of those. How the Other Half Live. That's what it's called. The book's called How the Other Half Live, and it was essentially a look into cities at the time and saying, hey, these are how the older people are living in New York City in the tenement houses. Like, imagine living in one of these. Looks nice. But imagine every single room in that was cut in half, and sometimes you didn't have fresh air or light in your room. And you were paying a lot of money for that. Those were the tenement houses of New York City. Horrible, squalid conditions, net negative of life in these cities. You think the landlords cared? No, they did not care. They were making money off these places. You kidding me? Imagine being able to double your supply, double your income just by splitting a room in half. And what are they gonna do? Say no? No, they need a place to live. They need a place to live in this city. And so this went on for a very long time until eventually New York City and more came in and said, hey, I don't want our citizens to live like this. We're not going to do this anymore. We're past the Gilded Age. So New York City comes in and says, these are banned. We're going to set regulations in this. All houses have to have access to light and fresh air and things like that, which is good standards to have. Very good standards to have. You're increasing quality of life then. And with that, they also create setbacks. What is a setback? That's a very good question. This is a setback. This little gap between one building from another. This allows for air and some light to come in through these windows. So instead of it being crammed up against this, you now have access to breathing room. There is a problem though in some areas. This setback can cause sprawl because you're now legislating how much of a yard people can have, how much of a side yard they can have, and how much of a rear yard and how much of a front yard they are legally required to have, I should say. So like here, it's not too bad because we're European style. You're now having a backyard setback of a large amount though. And so instead of that space being used for housing or more productive purposes, it's used for grass, which sometimes is nice. Sometimes in more of an outdoor area, next to rural, it works because you don't want to pave over everything. That can work. But, like with anything, it's to the extremes in some places and can cause a lot of problems. I was about to say we're starting to see the traffic being solved, but it's not because we have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to spend all of my money on because I'm bad at designing intersections and I don't want to be laughed at. So the next level up, that's what we're going to do. And because we're starting to become more, I was going to say industrialized, and in some ways more urbanized, we're going to work exactly like Arizona, where in a lot of places there they have high setbacks and things like that. A lot of the more southern states also have a different issue, and that's with water access. So what's happened is you're seeing a competition between who gets the water. You have the old farmlands there that used up a lot of the water. In fact, a lot of the lakes in that area were dried up. In fact, there's an old famous one in California that was a huge freshwater lake, and because of the inefficient farming practices of the time, they drained all the water there, and now that lake no longer exists. Which is a crazy thing to think about. That there used to be a giant lake, California, and things like that. That's just gone now. A better example is also the Caspian Sea. I think it's called the Caspian Sea in Russia. Where, again, due to inefficient agriculture, you drained a lot of that. But I digress. With places like Arizona and things like that, you're seeing a fight because of how rare water is and how needed it is between the farmers, the residential, and the industrial. Because Arizona, Colorado, and things like that, they got a lot of people who want to build chip manufacturings there. And chip manufacturing takes a lot of water. And if you don't have that water, it's now a scarce resource. The question right now that's happening in those political spheres is, who gets the water? An idea that is crazy because back in the day people were like, oh, the water wars might happen and things like that, blah, blah, blah. This is going to happen, it's going to be bad. And people are like, oh, that's not going to happen, it's crazy. We're seeing water be a rarer resource, and like you're seeing it in things like Mexico City right now is having a problem with it. South Africa had a big problem with their droughts, where South Africa, I think they just missed day 0, which is when they would run out of water. So you're starting to see things like rationing and things like that. It is scary, but there are ways to fix it. Number one, water efficiency usage. Like, hey, instead of having all this industrial... What? Hi! Cat's up again. Sorry, I bumped it. Like, He likes doing that. Hey, buddy. But you start to see a lot of inefficiencies and things like that that can be fixed. Let's also start giving our people mail. But yeah, South Africa just missed their day 0 when the water would run out because it rained, thank goodness. And let's put a post office here. On the main road? No, off the side road. And now that we have 6 points, unlock intersection time. The city is growing. One of the things I'm sad about that they don't have in City Skylines 2, which they had in City Skylines 1, is the ability to make parks. Because that was so cool. You could make little micro parks in areas and have like little things there. It was beautiful. Let's put a radio mast. Usually these days... Let's say an industrial site, you put it there. Do it that way. No, so this is a couple years back with South Africa. They were having a large drought. And so it was, hey, we don't really have enough water right now. Holy crow, some of these intersections are crazy. Let's do this. We don't have enough water right now for all of our people. And so they made a day 0. Luckily it rained and they didn't have to worry about it right then. But their reservoirs were drying up. Mexico City is similar things happening, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because Mexico City is actually a dry lake bed. It used to be a lake. And what happened was the city developed and industry came in and buildings were made and the impervious surface was covered and the lakes were drained, and then suddenly now you have a city in a lake bed that when it rains it floods because nothing can go under it, and because nothing can go into it and permeate into it, you don't really have that much groundwater to take from. And so when they had the drought, it was a large problem. I should be able to just build here. I got rid of all the power lines. Also, if you need me to re-explain anything, I can always do that. What is it getting? Oh, there is. Is it the people? Alright, that's fine, actually. You know what? That works. Where it is fine. Let's put the large road connecting here. You know what, actually, we're away. Don't need lanes right now because they don't really have directions to go into. Put this here. Move this here. Give it a little bit of an S action. Fun fact, though, with Mexico City, I think it used to be the capital of the Aztec Empire, where they built it on top of a swamp. They built it on an island in the middle of a swamp because they saw and this is going to be interesting, they saw an eagle eating a snake. Now you might wonder, why is that interesting? Well, what's the flag of Mexico? It's an eagle eating a snake. And where did they see the eagle eating the snake? On top of a cactus. What's the flag of Mexico? An eagle eating a snake on top of a cactus. So that's a bit of where their history is. I have too many facts. Okay, I like this, I like this. Now we just need to connect the highways. And if I did this correctly, and I'm hoping I did this correctly, please tell me I did this correctly, bitte. I am hoping that our traffic problem should be solved. No, history is interesting, and like the things that make our cultures in the way they are today are fascinating, and I think that more people should learn about other cultures and things like that, because you learn like how things happen in your own. All right, let's connect you. Oh, I can't connect you to you. Sacrilege. Underground mode, please. Get rid of those. Hold up, where are your sewage? Oh, that's cool. You can't bulldoze sewage lines under it. You know, Mexico City's actually, and the Aztecs are very interesting. They had one of the most efficient sources of agriculture called champas, which are little floating islands of mud and like leaf litter and stuff like that, that they would float on top of the river, because again, on top of the lake, of course, because they lived on the lake and they only had a small island, and so they were expanding it that way too. But they had this, and they were the most efficient agriculture ever, able to produce a lot of produce, a lot of everything. Let's put you here. A bit of a bypass. Well, I'll tell you what, we fixed the traffic somehow. But why aren't people coming in anymore? Of course, the traffic accident that happens is, of course, a taxi. We're still importing our electricity, but I think we're starting to get the point. We're starting to get to the point where it might be a smart idea to make our own. So let's do that. Ah, man, there used to be like better areas to put these back in the day. Or like you could almost put them anywhere in City Skylines 1. And they would make 5. Like, why does this make 5? When over here doesn't? We also can't really put it here because the residential's here, so it would be too loud. These are protected areas. But we could say sometimes protected areas do have electricity lines and things like that running through them. So we'll say that's what's happening here. And connect it with you. There we go. How are our graphs going? Crime rate's nothing. Education? Ooh, we have a lot of poorly educated citizens. You're right, we do need to work on that. Yeah, we have, we do not have enough elementary schools. So let's get an urban elementary school in this urban area so that they can have a good education there. And that we're set for the future when this expands. And we're gonna go bankrupt soon. But we don't have to go bankrupt today. No, I won't use loans. Good. Strong. Cool. I'm a big man. I don't need to use loans. I'm a big man. So we'll do this, and add in a bit of industry there. People are looking for more housing. We can finally use mixed. I'm gonna hold back on using mixed everywhere, and I'm only gonna use it like in areas where it would kind of make sense, like on main streets and things like that. But on the side roads, we're still gonna just stay with regular old this and that. And what we're also going to do is we're going to start connecting this with the bigger city, because right now it feels a bit disconnected. But we still want to keep that lane hierarchy, so we're going to go here. We're going to make an overpass. Hey, debt traps are no jokes. Are no joke. They happen a lot. The real debt trap for cities in a lot of areas, especially suburban areas, though, is this suburban sprawl. Because again, as I said at the beginning, it costs a lot to keep these. Because the roadways cost money to repair and to make and to everything. And then you need the services to drive to them. And yet they don't produce much tax money. Residential, especially single family, doesn't produce that much tax money. When compared to more areas like this, more densely connected areas. Here you can build, like what I did right here, you can build one school, and that's going to support all of this instead of like one school supporting all of this. So you're getting more bang for your buck. The way I like to summarize it is in one word: economics of scale. Where it's cheaper if everything's close, where it's cheaper to do a large amount in one area with a large amount of materials. I'm not the best at explaining it. Though I should learn more about it because I quote it quite a lot. Okay, what are we doing here? Okay, so we actually need to increase you then. Maybe that actually wasn't the best intersection. That's sad. I was about to say we'll live with it for now. We are not going to live with it for now. We also have a lot of taxis again. What's the deal with all these taxis? I mean, it's ridiculous. Thank you, Jerry. I think what that means is we do need to start going for public transit, but we don't have the money to do it. But we're going to get the money now because now we're generating more money. We don't need debt. We're making our own money. We're printing money! So we have a good base. We have a good base. I think this is kind of going to be where we're going to stop. We've gone 2 hours. So I think this is where we're going to take a break. Come back another time. Not exactly sure when. Maybe tomorrow afternoon. Maybe next Saturday. We'll see. I have a full-time job. I apologize. But I think we have a good start here, and we told a lot of good stories, a lot of good things. And from here, I think we can start getting toward. And I think that's the exciting. Well, building the cities is the exciting part. What am I? All right. Well, I thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, leave a like. If you did enjoy even more, subscribe. And I will see you another time. Stay safe. Bye. What am I? There it is.